on behalf of the Institute for Leadership and Strategic Foresight. Welcome to So You Want to Be the Chief, a podcast for leaders.
Well, it's a special day here today in the southwest part of the country. I'm speaking with Chief Master Sergeant Sharla Kostielney. Did I say it right, Chief?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
You did.
All right.
Thank you.
That's not an easy name for a Hispanic guy to say. So, but that's not your original name, your maiden name, right? It's a different. Was it Bishop? Is that what you were a bishop?
Bennett. So I came in the Air
Bennett.
Force as a Bennett.
Okay.
I was married once before. My last name was Riley, and now I'm married to a retired Marine with the last name of Kostielney.
Okay. Well, either way, at least you have a good first name, and that would be Chief.
That's right. That's right.
Well, good to meet you, Chief. I know that you're a protege of one of my proteges, Chief Master Sergeant retired Leighton Williams, who is out in San Antonio, probably sunning right now because that's what happens in San Antonio, a lot of sun and a lot of heat. I'm in Colorado. It's a little bit chilly. We had snow this morning, and you're in Malmstrom, Montana, where you get plenty of snow.
Yes, we had a heat wave. It was 72 yesterday, and it's supposed to snow tomorrow. So yay.
Yeah. Well, that's typical. You put up with it. I don't know how it is there. Here, it melts pretty quickly. You know what snow we got this morning is gone now because the sun came up. So you just adjust to it. And Chief, you are the command chief for the 341st Missile Wing. Is that correct?
That is correct, yes.
Okay. All right. Now, I taught at the Air Force Academy for almost 20 years, and I graduated a lot of lieutenants that went into missiles, and they ended up, they're probably there hanging out. You can ask them, are you in? And they'll answer all in because I taught them that. But anyway, do you have a lot of officers around there, Chief, or do you have some enlisted folks in the mix? I don't know much about Malmstrom, although when before command chief, we had senior enlisted advisors, and I was one of those. And I went to Malmstrom. The only time I ever went there was to interview for that job at Fairchild, and I got it. General, I can't think of his name offhand. Velger, General Gary Velger hired me. A beautiful place. Like I said, I'd never been there, and it was just a beautiful place. But it does get cold and it gets snowy. But anyway, are there a lot of officers, or are there a few enlisted people there?
So we have a pretty healthy mix here. Our officers, we have both. We have a very large contingent of defenders here locally, but our operations group has a lot of missileers in it. And of course, we have officers in all of our squadrons. But I would say it's probably a third of officers here because of the operations group. Totaling about 4,300 people assigned to the installation with an additional 2,500 family members. So
yeah, and there's a lot of support for the missileers, I assume, right? Because they stay underground a lot and do whatever they do. Absolutely. And they need all the support they can get.
100%, Chief. One of the things that we're working on here is a first-term officer course, so that they're set up like our enlisted airmen are when they get to the installation, so that they can better Air Force versus just missileer, and then learn why leadership is so important. Because a lot of times our missileers don't have the opportunity to lead until they're commanders. So we want to start injecting some officer installation level PME for them, taught by officers and our senior enlisted leaders, so that they start to learn to work together right away.
That's wonderful. And by the way, I have a book. In fact, it was my first book that I ever got published, called Air Power, HEIR Power, 8 Basic Habits of Exceptionally Powerful Lieutenants, which is really about leader. It doesn't matter what rank, but since I was teaching at the academy, I titled it for them. So 2.0 is out. So if you need anything, let me know. If you need books, let me know. We do need to help them as much as we help ourselves. I was with them a lot, 4 years of being at the Air Force Academy, and all of a sudden you're in charge of 20 or 30 senior NCOs, one of them, which is the chief with 30 years of service. Be careful.
Absolutely. I'll keep that in mind as we start rolling out more PME for them locally.
Sounds good. Now, what is your background? What did you do before you became a command chief?
So for my first 4 years in the Air Force, I started out in aircraft maintenance, working the F-15 Eagles and Charlies, and then I moved to work on the A-10s. Then after 4 years, I retrained into personnel. And I did a stint as defense attaché in the Netherlands between 2014 and 2017. So basic personnel is my background now. It's my home.
Yeah. Now, and there's a system now for selecting command chiefs, right, Chief? Back in my day, like I said, in fact, it was a wonderful, beautiful day in California at March Air Force Base. I was sitting on my lanai, I think that's how you say it. I was commandant of the NCO Academy there, and a gentleman by the name of Dave Campanelli, who happened to be the Chief Master of the Air Force, calls me and says, "Hey, how would you like to go to Fairchild?" I said, "I don't think so. I'm fat and happy here." And if you know Dave at all, and I love him dearly, you don't say no to Dave. So I ended up at Fairchild as the senior enlisted advisor, which I enjoyed it. It was a lot of fun, but a lot of work at the same time. So you just assumed the job not long ago, as I recall.
So I just got into the job in June. So I'm heading up to a year now in the seat, and it's definitely been an adjustment. The battle rhythm is a little different. You're right. Very, very rewarding and very, very busy. Yeah. But I can't imagine having a bigger honor in the Air Force, honestly.
Yeah. Well, you have a lot of opportunities to touch people, hopefully in positive ways. Sometimes it has to be negative, but mostly in positive ways. How long have you been in service, and how long have you been a chief?
So I have been in service for 26 and a half years, and I've been a chief for just over 3.
Okay. All right. So good. So you've got a little experience on the streets as a chief.
A little bit.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Now,
Absolutely.
I want to say this with all due respect, but I want your perspective on it, because this podcast is about helping chiefs be better chiefs. I've always been a leader, and we can argue whether leaders are made or born. Well, the answer really is yes. But some people are born to lead, I guess, because I've always led, always. But the toughest group to lead, in my experience, was the chiefs group.
100%.
They were tough, and especially when I went to Fairchild, because I was 18 years, I think, in service, and I had all of these. This was SAC at the time, if you remember SAC, old SAC, and these guys, chiefs, had been there for 20 years, never gone anywhere, and so they ran the place pretty much. And here comes a little pipsqueak that's just made chief not long ago, and he's the top dog. It was tough. It was very, very tough, but we got through it, and we had some stuff happen there that made it worse. But has that been your experience, Chief, that the chiefs are sometimes the harder groups to lead? Airmen follow. You tell them to jump, they jump. In fact, they ask how high. But chiefs, not so much.
No, 100%. So I was at Hickam Air Force Base, or Joint Base Pearl Harbor Hickam, prior to here, and I was the vice president of the Chiefs group. We had 123 chiefs, and I don't know how many of them were E9-year-olds, but we had a lot of people that liked to complain. And we had, everybody has an ego and everybody likes to talk. And when you're a chief, you're used to being listened to. So when you're amongst other people that don't necessarily have to agree, it can become a big challenge. Absolutely. And then in the command chief billet, having an enormous amount of respect for the chiefs that we have help. Like, I couldn't get my mission done without them. They really are the network that completes the mission. And so having that mutual respect and not just coming in as a dominant force and being like, well, I'm the command chief, so you're going to listen to me. It's a lot of listening in return and advocating for them versus just saying, go do from the seat, right? So you're right. Dealing with other chiefs is probably the hardest part, but the best way to get stuff done on the installation.
And the best way, I think, Chief, to go on with what you were saying, I think, is to make sure that we all have the same purpose, the same common purpose. I mean, eventually it's to protect the country, right? Whatever any of us needs to do to protect the country. But as a wing, however it is, the base and all that, I think if all of us humble ourselves to that purpose. I'm here to do that, not to be great or popular or whatever. I think we tell our followers, the NCOs, the airmen, that, but we got to practice it.
100%. I totally agree. My leadership philosophy is take care of the people and they'll take care of the mission. And as chiefs, you can't make E10. So charge forward, lead fearlessly, and make sure that you're doing what you need to do to take care of those airmen. step back, remove your ego from the conversation, because it's not about you, it's about them, and how we make the Air Force they want to continue on in and thrive in. So that's usually how we try to move forward.
Help me to be respectful here, Chief, please. Is it different to being a female chief, a woman? I don't know what the term is. The other than man, the most of the country, most of the world, really, the Air Force is run by men. So we dominate everything. But here you are, a female command chief. You're the top dog. Is that tougher, you think? It's a little bit difficult because you don't have the male experience, of course. But do you think it's tougher for a woman to lead at that level?
I feel like there's probably different challenges to being a female. A lot of times, just generally, people assume that women are more emotional in our decision making, and also I think that there's a little bit of proving yourself. I am a younger chief, if you will, as far as my data rank goes, and I acknowledge that. We have chiefs on the installation who've had way more time in grade than I do, and time in service. And then, like you had said, sometimes we took over Fairchild. Hey, come on in, little chief. What are you going to do, right? And so I think there's a little bit of that, in addition to being a female and feeling like, do I have to prove myself in a different way than just as a chief on the installation who happens to be the command chief? Are people going to think that I'm responding in a more emotional manner towards things because of my gender? Those are things that I think we face throughout our career, and you learn to harness them a little better as you grow. But yeah, it's still there a little bit. I always try to tell our young females that are up and coming that our challenges are different, but don't let them divide us. So.
Yeah. And for us males, accept that, respect that. It's a two-way street. I think, and I have daughters and granddaughters, so I'm all in for the women, women power. But we men have to be respectful of that. We should be. There's no reason not to be, because I've worked with many women. In fact, one of my favorite bosses was a female, and she's wonderful. She still is. She's a good friend of mine and all. But I never really I made a big deal about her being a woman. She was a good officer, period. A good person, period. Last week, I interviewed Joe Bass, Chief Master of the Air Force Number 19, a wonderful lady. We don't know each other very well person to person, but we know each other pretty well electronically because we've connected a lot. And I remember when she became the first female chief master of the Air Force, people were making a big deal about it. And I said, well, that's wonderful. And it is wonderful. It's great. Again, I'm all for women power. But at the same time, is she qualified? And the answer is yes. She's a great woman and a great leader. She was exactly qualified, and I think we've got to put some of that stuff behind us, And this is regardless of whether you're tall or white or green or purple, you're the command chief, and we should respect that.
Absolutely, I agree, and it is one of those things where I have had some imposter syndrome coming into the position, where I was afraid people would be like, "Oh, she just got the job because she's a female." And then that ties into you feeling like you have to prove yourself. But the reality is, for me, when it comes to diversity and inclusion, to me, that means we are inviting all people to the table to compete, and the best person is chosen for the job. When it comes to command chiefs, right, it's how you click with your boss, how much diversity you thought he or she would like at the table when we're having conversations. And I know my boss very deliberately hired me because of my leadership style, my personnel background, and how different it is from the head shed, because they're all ops group missileers up here, and then what I bring to the table as far as life experiences outside of what many of our people on this installation have, because we're, as a missile wing, a lot of the people on the installation are siloed into, pardon my pun there, siloed into just missile wings. And so they have very limited options of different locations to go to.
What do you think prepared you for that job, Chief?
The entire time I've been in the Air Force, right? You can speed up promotions, but you can't speed up experience. And I think I've really grown as a leader. I had the awesome opportunity to be the command chief exec under Chief Williams, Leighton Williams, your prodigy. And that was my entrance to understanding what a command chief does, and some motivation there on, wow, I can have a podium to take care of airmen in a much bigger fashion. And then just every seat I've been in, and I think really coming from a personnel background, that is taking care of people. And so instead of just finding the black and white way to say yes or no, how do we use that gray to benefit our airmen and their personal circumstances? And so when I started really thinking outside of the box more and assuming risk in a different manner, I think it really opened some doors on how to best care for our airmen. So I think that's really helped me out a lot. Working with the 123 chiefs at Hickam has offered me a lot of opportunity for a diversity of experience and thought, if you will. And but I also will say, Chief, that I don't think anybody's necessarily qualified for the job when they get it. They have the talents and capabilities to execute the job as seen by somebody else. That's why imposter syndrome is a real thing, because you're not qualified until you've done it, and you don't necessarily get the opportunity to do it until somebody sees that in you. So
I've said this for many years. You're better at what you do when you're not doing it anymore than when you were doing it, right? Because you have a different perspective. You're outside now, and you can see the things that were happening. While you're inside, it's like they're happening. So you got to, react to that and respond to that and all. And it's a lot harder when you're in it than when you can back off and say, I think I'm a better chief now because I'm not a chief anymore, officially or on active duty. But so you had the opportunity to watch Chief Leighton Williams model what a command chief is about. That's pretty cool. I think not all chiefs get that opportunity. I don't think. It seems like when I grew up. The day I put on chief, I knew how to be a chief because I had been beat up. Really, now that I think about it, I was at Malmstrom Air Force Base, and the mecca of enlisted PME and all. I don't know how many chiefs, but there were a lot of them. All of them mentoring me, which I'm grateful for. So I already knew what it took and what I needed to do. But a lot of times it seems like nowadays, I'm not sure that they're getting the, shadowing maybe experience. What's a chief supposed to be? Well, get the book, first of all, right? And listen to the podcast, and that'll help you. But a lot of times, if you haven't seen it, you're not going to be able to do it. That's my perspective.
I 100% agree. I tell people being a senior is probably the hardest rank I've ever worn, because the people that you serve as a servant leader, they expect a lot out of you, and you're learning how to give more. There's only one 9 level in the Air Force. And then the chiefs above you are like, well, you want to be a chief, so you need to do this, this, and this. And so it's kind of a sandwiched, hard leadership opportunity. I grew a lot in that. I think you've said in some of your previous podcasts, you were called a chief way before you sewed it on. That's very similar to me. I think you can identify people that have those innate leadership skills that you just have to tweak a little bit. And if they want it, it'll be theirs at some point in time. But yeah, becoming a chief, you have to live in the shoes of it, but you never really do until you sew it on. I remember the most awkward parts for me were, what do I call my peers? Because I've never called them by their first name before now, the chiefs, right? And then that adds a whole new thing into it of like, if you call me Chief so-and-so, are you trying to use your messaging in a different way? If you call me Sharla, like how are we interacting that way? Because there is still a hierarchy of chiefs, right? So it's one of those things where I get uncomfortable if one of my fellow chiefs calls me Chief Kostielney or Chief K or just Chief. I'm like, okay, well, hey, Bob, it's very nice to talk to you, right? Like, we're peers. We have the same rank. It doesn't matter what our position is. You may be paid more than me based off your time in service. And then your evaluation, the EPRs previously, they looked different because it was shorter, but now we have the EPB, so they're going to be the same amount of lines, but what you focus on is going to be different based off of which path or trajectory you want to go functional or leadership, right? So how you write that is going to become a skill that you need to learn. Those are the little things that made me feel awkward in being a chief. I felt like when I put it on, I was ready for it, and the responsibilities that came with it. But the other little pieces of it, I needed to tie up.
Yeah. And that's where I think humility comes in, Chief, that the rest of us, I contend and I continue to fight this fight that we don't need more leaders. We've got plenty of them. We need more effective followers, and that's all. The foundation for that is really based on humility. That and the chiefs that I worked with that were good with me and for me, and we did a lot of stuff, were exactly that. We knew when to follow and when to lead, and it wasn't always me. I had the responsibility because I answered to the general, but the other guys a lot of times, Jimmy Thies, I remember him. I can see him in my mind's eye. Wonderful man, and sometimes he'd say, "Okay, Bob, you need me to follow or you need me to lead?" Okay, follow, and he did that, and lead. And he did that. So, as a chief, I think we need to be able to do that, and we need to be willing to follow when it's time. And again, all of those chiefs, I hope there's a lot of chiefs at Malmstrom listening to this. And my advice to y'all, chiefs, if you want to be effective as a group, follow whoever's in charge. And this may be Chief K that's in charge. Follow her. Back in the day, we used to say, I did it plenty of times, we'd close the door and we'd cuss and discuss. But when we opened the door, we had one purpose, and that was to make things better. So, but I think, you can't change that, unfortunately, Chief. You can't. But the other chiefs can, and we can all work together to be great. And maybe you'll get the accolades, because I think the command chief gets a BMW at the end of their tenure, right?
I don't know yet, but I'll let you know in about a year.
Let's hope you do. But although you don't need a BMW in
Montana.
Yeah,
right? No, maybe for the next assignment, who knows? Or retirement, whichever comes first.
Yes. Now, is that what you plan to do? You planning to retire after this, after you're done with this?
So I absolutely love the job. The battle rhythm took a bit of an expense on me for a little bit, but I think I'm over that hump. But I would love to have the opportunity to go be a command chief at a larger installation and have, a bigger influence on a larger pool of people. But if that's not in my cards, that's okay too. I feel like I'm in a win-win situation. I either retire and my husband's happy to have his wife back, or I move forward and get the opportunity to continue to do what I love. Yeah. So we'll see.
Well, and one of the things I think we create in the Air Force, in the military, Chief, is good citizens. And that's sometimes better than anything else, because we really need that. I think you would agree. We really need good citizens all over the country and all over the world. So what's your best advice for a new chief? So here's a new Chief K, just walked in the door. She just put on her stripes. What's the best advice that you can give her to succeed?
So when I get asked this question, I always say, take care of your airmen, they'll take care of the mission. And lead fearlessly, right? You can't make E10, and your job is to now kick down doors and break glass and do the things that you need to do to take care of your airmen. So move forward without fear, right? Have the hard conversations. Know that there's going to be times where people try to push those hard conversations onto the chief, which I think was one of my challenges when I first became a chief. Nobody wanted to have those conversations, so they were all like, "Hey, chief, can you talk to so-and-so about X, Y, and Z?" Where my role is not to do that necessarily anymore, although I can. It is to groom and grow the individuals that need to have those conversations. And so that turns into a mentorship opportunity where we have a conversation about why they're not having that discussion with their airmen or not. But yeah, lead fearlessly is my big one. If you don't use the stripes for the value that they bring, and that is for our airmen, then you're doing it wrong. Don't be in it for you. People will sniff you out in a heartbeat. And give yourself grace, because it's a curve every time you move to a new position or somebody rotates out. You're always building trust with those airmen. And it only takes one small thing to break it, and it takes a really long time to build it. So lead fearlessly, let them know you're taking care of them. It doesn't have to be in a direct way. They'll see it through your heart that comes through your actions.
When I first put on chief there at Maxwell, I always wondered what his first name was. I called him Chief Gwaltney. I don't know what his first name is. I never knew. But anyway, he pulled me aside and he said, Bob, if you want to be a chief, you have to be willing to get your butt chewed at least once a week. At first, I didn't understand that, and eventually I did. And I was pretty good at getting my butt chewed once a week. But I think you're right, Chief. It takes courage to walk in there to tell anybody, but particularly the wing commander, boss, it's not happening. But then I always tell people, when you do that, don't go in there and just say, boss, this sucks. That's not value at all. But we need to do it this way, boss. This is what we'll get. And all, there's a process. In fact, I'm writing a book on how to do this. But yeah, you got to be. I love that you say that. You got to have the courage to do the things that other people wouldn't be willing to do.
What 100%, yes, and it's an expectation now, right? There's a lot of times where I'm like, okay, so it's my job to say this now, so because I don't think anybody else is going to, and so let's put the uncomfortable conversation on the table and have it. That's my job now sometimes, to make sure that those conversation pieces that people want to ignore happen, or just to vector check that we're absolutely on the right path. A lot of people don't want to challenge the wing commander or the deputy wing commander or the command chief, right? And that's where that building trust comes in. But sometimes that's why we're hired, is to be the person that says things other people don't want to.
Yep. That's why you make all that money.
And even as a SEL, sorry?
That's why you make all that money.
Yes, right, absolutely. I always tell people also, don't take on more than your paycheck can handle. So that's when it lands on us, absolutely.
Yeah. Well, Chief, I thank you for taking the time. I know you're a busy person and running around all over the place. And Malmstrom is a pretty big place, I think, right? Physically, there are a lot of miles, square miles on the base. So
and our AOR isn't just on the installation. So we're over 13,000 square miles across. So I always tell our maintainers, when you head out for work, it might be a 3-hour drive. Don't forget your tools. So. Yes, sir. It's a unique mission, and I'm very proud to be part of it.
Yep. Well, good luck with all that. And it's coming up on a year. And did you say, is that a 2-year normally a 2-year tour, or 3 years?
2 years is our norm right now, our standard tour length for a command chief.
Okay. Well, you've had the year to learn everything, and now you'll have the year to fix everything.
Right. Now I feel the commander's pain when they do their first year understanding the mission and getting to know the people, and then their second year is trying to execute all the things they learned before they leave.
Yep. Well, God bless you and your family. The Marine, Semper Fi, take care of him so he can take care of you, because it works that way in the family too. And I'm here to serve you in any way that I can.
Thank you, Bob. I appreciate it, and I'll be looking into those books for our young officers as we build out our PME for them.
Sounds good. God bless you.
Bless you too, sir. Thank you.